Election 2022. Yes, it is now an election year. There's some fascinating races taking shape, including within the Democratic Party. And one of those is in Washington State. And that is where Jason Call, a former math teacher, he's a building inspector, lifelong progressive activist, is challenging the Democratic incumbent for the primary there in Washington's 2nd Congressional District. Jason Call, thanks for joining us. What prompted you to decide that, you know what, there needs to be a progressive challenger to Rick Larsen, who has held this seat for 20 years?
Yeah, first, I'm really grateful to be here. I'm happy to talk to you about my race. I've been an activist, as you mentioned. I've been an activist my whole life, since I was 19 years old when I was protesting the first Iraq War in 1990. I was a freshman at the University of Washington, and I think I've gone through my life like many people who consider themselves progressive, seeing problems that are not getting solved. And the reason they're not getting solved is because there's a ton of corruption in Congress. I mean, that's really the bottom line for me and so many others who are challenging the establishment right now. So, the guy I'm challenging, Rick Larsen, he's been in this seat for 20 years. This is a safe blue district. Washington is a top 2 primary state. So like California, like Louisiana, whoever the top 2 vote getters are in the primary, they go head to head in the general. And that's a real opportunity here. Republicans not gonna win this seat. They don't field any serious candidates. They don't put in any money into the race here. And as I've been going around the district, I've been talking to local Democratic Party organizations about the need to have a conversation in this district on policy and on values. It's a conversation that the incumbent has been able to avoid his entire time in office. He simply runs on not being a Republican. That's not good enough anymore. There are so many things on the table that need action that are not getting action. He is loaded up with corporate money from the military industrial complex, the fossil fuel industry, the banking industry. There are so many reasons we need better in this district right now. And I believe I can do this. This is the 2nd time I've run. We almost hit the general election in 2020 as a no-name candidate raising barely $50,000. I got almost 35,000 votes in this district, and we missed the general election by about 2,500 votes. We can do better this year, and we're gonna win this race.
In addition to what a lot of people would say is corruption in terms of our campaign finance system, in addition to the money that Congressman Larsen has taken from fossil fuels and big pharma and the rest, is there specific though corruption that you would identify or tag him with?
Well, I mean, I think when you take money from TransCanada and take money from Enbridge and then the very next day tweet out your support of oil pipelines, I think that's just an identification of whose corner you are in. He's voted for, he sits on the Armed Services Committee, 4th ranking Democrat on the Armed Services Committee, and takes a ton of money from all of the military industrial contractors, particularly Boeing, who is a big employer in this district, but also Northrop Grumman. They're up for massive contracts to retool the United States ICBM arsenal, and he votes for every military budget going, and taking money from Boeing. If you want a direct corruption that I can really feel like I can link to, he's chair of the Aviation Subcommittee of Transportation right now. Takes a ton of money from Boeing, as I mentioned. Boeing had some serious problems with the IMAX, the 737 MAX plane. We had a couple of crashes in 2018, 2019. Hundreds of people died. And as chair of aviation, he had a responsibility to regulate that industry. Well, Boeing essentially buys off congresspeople like Rick Larsen to not do their job of regulation. So I can detail that in more, but really, yeah, I mean, there's a pay to play that corporations have in Congress to get what they want that the average person doesn't get, the average voter doesn't get, and it never works out well for consumers. And that's just one instance with Boeing crashes where people died, flight attendants died, passengers died, and there was a direct failure of oversight in that congressional committee.
Well, Jason, let me turn the question a little bit. Let's just suppose that some major interest group, and let's suppose they're a progressive interest group, said, hey, Jason, we love what you're doing. We're gonna form a super PAC. We're gonna pump $5 million or whatever it is into your race. Would you disavow that? Would you tell them not to do it?
I don't want dark money in my race. I would reject super PAC money. I would ask people to contribute to my race directly. Let the FEC files show who is giving me money. But no, I don't want any kind of super PAC money, even if it comes from progressive groups. I would, like I said, please give to my campaign. Raising money as a progressive is extremely difficult. I would love endorsements from PACs, but I don't want to take their money. I'll take their volunteers, and I'll take their activism, but I don't want to take their money.
In addition to campaign finance reform, I know that you're big on common sense gun reforms. Is there particular gun legislation that you think Democrats, progressives can get together on and somehow get around the Republicans in the House and the Senate?
It's a really difficult thing to do. I wrote and passed almost unmodified a resolution with the Washington State Democrats. I sat on the State Democrats Central Committee for 4 years, and wrote and passed a resolution. The only thing that we couldn't get passed was an insurance requirement for gun holders to have gun insurance, and that's because for the most part, insurance companies don't even offer that product. So it is difficult. It's a wedge issue. I'll say that gun reform is not a huge topic in my campaign because there are so many things that, like healthcare and housing, and military spending, and the climate. Really, the climate crisis is way up there also. That are things that we have got to get a handle on, and gun reform tends to be a very, very divisive issue. I want to find ways to bring people together around it, and I don't know that we really have a solution for that quite yet.
I hear you. It is a difficult issue. Another thing that a lot of Democrats are seeing is very difficult political terrain. I think it's up to now 26, 27 Democratic incumbents who have decided not to run for re-election. It looks like Republicans could take the House the way things are going, especially given the poll numbers of President Biden. You're 50 years old. You've been around for a fair amount of time, a long time in activism. Why now? Why this particular year make the decision to run to challenge Rick Larsen? Is it because you did so well back in 2020? Do you feel that there's something changing in your district?
Well, I'll be honest with you. Yeah, I mean, the fact that we did so well last year and almost hit that general election last year is a big part of it. But there is impetus in this district for it. I met with one of our local Democratic Party organizations for about an hour and a half this last Saturday, and they're asking me all sorts of questions about policy that I feel like I have answers to. And at the end of that meeting with them, they were clapping for me and they were really feeling like, yeah, at least we need to have the conversation in the district. And I said to them, listen, you get Rick and I on the ballot next to each other. Let us have some debates. Let the voters decide. But we're not going to get the debate ever unless there is an actual progressive challenger within the party. And I think that that's vital for democracy. As I said, a Republican is not going to win this seat. So why not put two people? Like AOC said about Joe Biden. In any other country, Joe Biden and I would be in different parties. It's the same way with me and Rick Larsen. We would be in different parties if we were in a different country. But here we are. We're in the same party. We're on opposite ends of it. And I think the voters of this district really deserve that conversation.
Tell us about some of the key dates. First, the primary, and then assuming you get into you're the top two, then there's the general election. Tell us the sort of phases of this election.
Well, I filed for the seat in May. Third week of May is when all Washington candidates file. Primary is going to be the first Tuesday in August. So that is the third, I believe. And then, on to the general. And hopefully we get a good 3 months of good, solid debate in the district, and we can make that happen.
If you could have this direct debate with Congressman Larsen, what are some of the key issues, the key arguments you would make to him when, if you've given the opportunity to say, hey, you have failed the district for the following reasons, what would you say?
Well, first of all, and this is not just Larsen, but he's part of it. The Democratic Party is not doing enough serious on climate change. I think COP26 was a joke. When Nancy Pelosi and Frank Pallone sit in front of people and they say, yeah, the military is pretty much exempt from all of these agreements that we make from COP26, and the military is if we ranked the military as a state actor, it would be somewhere around the 25th largest polluter in the world. The fact that we're not we're increasing those budgets. That the Build Back Better is about 7% of military budget in terms of spending. It's not enough, and he's out there saying that this is the most we've invested in climate ever. Well, that may be the case, but 10 times nothing is still nothing. We've got to do substantially better. It is the critical issue of our time right now to make sure we are reducing emissions. You cannot do that if you're taking money from the military industrial complex and the fossil fuel industry. That is not your priority. So that's one thing that I would hit him on right away. The other thing that I would hit him on is Democrats want Medicare for all. I was a big part of writing the Washington State Democrats platform. Medicare for all is in our state platform. It's in my county platform. It's in many county platforms. He has flat out said multiple times he will not support a single payer program. I want to know why. It's what Democrats want. It's what the majority of Republicans want, and it's what is needed.
What if he says, as I think he has in the past, he said in the past, we simply can't afford it. It's too expensive to go to Medicare for all. That's been his argument and the argument of other people who are opposed to it.
It's too expensive not to do it. We can cut out the middleman. We don't need to have exorbitant CEO salaries. I'm not interested in shareholder profits. I'm interested in good health policy, and we're not getting it right now.
Jason, for people who want to help support you, what do they do? Is there a website? What's the best way to contact you? And tell us a little bit about your district. What part of Washington State does it encompass?
Sure. The second district goes from the Snohomish-King border, which is, King County is where Seattle is. So it goes from the border up, the King County border up to the Canadian border, includes the Big Islands in the North Puget Sound. We got a mix of rural and urban. We've got working class and we've got wealthy. We're a predominantly white district from the 2010 census, but we are getting more and more diverse. I think we're now around 70% white, which is a big increase in diversity in this district. So I'm excited to look forward to represent it. You can find me at callforcongress.com. I can see that there. And all of my socials are at Call for Congress. I'm active on Twitter. And thank you so much.
Jason, thank you. And that'll do it for this edition of The Conversation. On behalf of Asher Cofield, Gina Kim, John Skip Valaco, and Greg, and the entire team at the Young Turks, I'm David Schuster. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.